We are simply impressions. Our life is nothing more than a repurposed figure of our impressions, not as abstract philosophy, but as the fundamental architecture of human existence. Every word that flows from our mouths, every thought that crystallizes in our minds, it's all borrowed, just reflected light. There's something profound about understanding that what we expel in our speech and thoughts is simply an impression inspired by another or others. We walk through life believing we're original thinkers, unique voices in the wilderness, but truly we are echo chambers. Beautiful, complex echo chambers. The way one speaks at a dinner party is an impression left by a teacher, a parent, a character in a movie, a friend who laughed at something similar years ago. The conviction with which one argues a point is borrowed from someone else's certainty. Consider how humans form opinions. We don't craft them from pure thought. We absorb fragments of conversations, pieces of arguments, emotional resonances that stuck with us. Then we reconstruct these fragments, arrange them in new patterns, and present them as our own understanding. But the raw materials were always impressions, always second-hand experiences that took root in our consciousness and grew into what we mistake for original insight. The impressions you give another are simply the impressions that have stuck with you. This is where it gets beautifully recursive, almost dizzying in its implications. When someone encounters your energy, your way of speaking, your particular blend of confidence and vulnerability, your approach to solving problems, they're not meeting you, they're meeting the collection of everyone who left an impression on you. The teacher who taught you to question everything, the friend who showed you how to laugh at yourself, the stranger whose kindness in a grocery store line shifted something in your understanding of human nature. We become walking composites, living collages of every meaningful interaction. The way one comforts someone in distress reflects how they were once comforted. Even our most personal quirks can be traced back to impressions that resonated so deeply, they became incorporated into our sense of self. This isn't to say humans lack authenticity. There's something uniquely human about how we synthesize these impressions, how we remix them into something that feels genuinely ours. The alchemy happens in the introduction of different impressions to one's previous catalog. It is the interacting, accepting, or rejecting of a new species within the ecosystem of one's consciousness. But the source material is always impressions. We're constantly curating from human experience around us, selecting what feels true or useful, incorporating it into our operating system. Someone might have their mother's way of listening, their grandfather's sense of humor, their college roommate's approach to organization, and their first boss's work ethic. And somehow these borrowed elements create a person who feels entirely individual. The phrases we use, gestures we make, values we hold sacred, all impressions that found fertile ground in our particular psyche. The impressions that stick become the building blocks of what we call personality, character, worldview. They layer upon each other, interact with each other, sometimes contradict each other. Someone might carry their grandmother's gentleness alongside their father's fierce ambition, their best friend's humor alongside their mentor's seriousness. These impressions don't always play nicely together, and that tension becomes part of what makes each person complex, multifaceted, and engrossing. There's a beautiful circularity to this understanding. Every impression we receive was itself an impression someone else received and transformed. Every way of being that strikes us as authentic or powerful or wise has been passed down through countless generations of humans impressing upon each other. We're all links in an infinite chain of influence, each of us both receiver and transmitter, constantly taking in impressions and sending them back out into the world, slightly altered by their passage through our particular consciousness. Here is where understanding transforms into advantage. If everything is just an impression, if we are walking composites of borrowed ways of being, then character becomes a craft. We are not victims of random influence. We are curators of our own becoming. Once this is recognized, there becomes an ability to rightfully absorb impressions. There comes an intention for which impressions are sought out. Someone who wants to cultivate wisdom can deliberately expose themselves to wise voices, allowing those impressions to settle and integrate into their own way of processing the world. The books one reads, people one surrounds themselves with, conversations one engages in. These are the raw materials of the person one wants to become. Someone who wants to cultivate wisdom can deliberately expose themselves to wise voices, allowing those impressions to settle and integrate into their own way of processing the world. The selection process becomes crucial. Not all impressions deserve space in our consciousness. It is the mind's job as the architect to stay vigilant on what passes through our referendum. It is also the mind's work as the tool that shapes, balances, and reworks these materials to construct our character. This intentional curation requires honesty about what impressions have already stuck, and a constant audit of what should still be within our system. What inherited ways of thinking serve us? Every human becomes a potential teacher, every interaction a potential classroom. The tool becomes even more refined when we understand that impressions don't just stick passively. We can actively work with them. Through reflection, immersion, intentional repetition, and perspective, we can realize the character we want to become and tinker with the impressions that embody us, choosing to weaken those that don't serve us and strengthen the ones that do. Character becomes not passive accumulation, but a conscious architectural result. Understanding this makes us impression givers, means we carry responsibility. The patience we model, integrity we demonstrate, curiosity we embody. These become gifts we offer to everyone we encounter. Impressions are how humans teach each other excellence, how wisdom travels across generations, how the best of humanity reproduces itself. In understanding this, we transform from recipients of influence to active architects of our own character and contributors to others. More you grow,